here we are at our first RPG, first of many in fact. Right off the bat I have to say, out of all the games we played in the gens of gaming so far, I know literally nothing about this one. Of course I've seen the hero guy in Smash, but even then I never bought the DLC, so I never even played him in Smash to see how he's represented. Though my knowledge is lacking, there was one thing I knew about this series beforehand, its dedicated fan base. Just because I'm not too familiar with this one does not mean this isn't another big one. Will I join the fan base after this game? Will its age as one of the first video game RPGs show? Well, let's find out. So as I said earlier, this is one of the first home console RPGs ever, meaning it made quite an impact. In 1982, a company by the name of Enix sponsored a video game programming contest. The prize was a trip to the US and a visit to Applefest. This trip brought most of the DQ team together. No, not that DQ. There we go. A man named Yuji Horii discovered a game called Wizardry, a Dungeons and Dragons-esque game. He loved it and already had the idea for a different kind of at-home experience with games, especially because at the time most games were action games, platformers, or something in between. Yuji Horii, along with Koichi Nakamura and Yokinobu Shida, released a murder mystery game for the PC, published by Enix. You know, before they put the square in front of it. Yuji still wanted that true RPG game though, so they next set out to do just that. On the ever-growing in popularity Famicom, a music composer by the name of Sugiyama sent a postcard to Enix praising them on their good work, which was a pretty big deal because he was quite established by this point and very good at what he does. They asked if he would like to compose for them someday, which he replied yes. An RPG with good programmers, great composer, all they needed was an artist. They contacted someone they knew through Weekly Shonen Jump. They commissioned someone who already had made quite a name for himself. Someone by the name of Akira Toriyama? I think he made a series about balls of dragons or something weird like that. Needless to say, this team was looking pretty stacked. They set out to really win the hearts of the Japanese into the world of RPGs. Will they succeed? Well, let's first talk about the... In this game, the story is as fantasy cliched as you can get. A barely named hero, a damsel in distress, prophecies, relics, and of course, dragons. It's honestly more cliche than The Legend of Zelda, which I'm not bringing up as a bad thing. It's the first of its kind, it might as well feel very familiar. You're a descendant of a hero named Erdrick, who once saved the land of Eilfgard. Eilfgard? The king tasked you to save the land of Eilfgard from a being called the Dragon Lord, who is causing havoc, sending hordes of monsters to attack and kill any villagers they can find. That's right, even this cute thing wants nothing more than to latch on your head and suck you dry. Wait, that sounded dirty? No, I mean like... You're also tasked to prove that you are truly a descendant of Erdrick. Can't use a family picture because photographs didn't exist yet, I guess. And of course, during all of this, the princess has been kidnapped by a green dragon and taken to its cave. I'm not completely sure why the dragon did this and not just eat her, but... While researching, I found that there's a subreddit with a bunch of different reasonings to why a dragon would kidnap a princess and not just eat her. So check those out and tell me in the comments below what you think the reason is. And that's pretty much the story of Dragon Quest. One thing I did really love about this, unlike Zelda where you're only tasked to save the princess by defeating Ganon, Dragon Quest treats it almost like a side quest. The king is trying to look tough and think of only the kingdom, but deep down he wants you to save his daughter. At least I hope so. But it's completely optional, which I was pleasantly surprised by. You can literally beat the game and see the credits, and never once even see what the princess looks like. It almost seems to call into question you as the player's motives to be a hero, because it's not even out of the way to save her. The only reason you really wouldn't is because you just don't care really. And that is not what true heroes do. So I like that. I like the story in general. One thing that's been missing from these other games I've played so far is storytelling 101. Show, don't just tell. In Zelda, we don't see any villagers in harm, but in Dragon Quest, you see an entire village that actually got decimated by the monsters. They kill everyone here. That actually changes the tune from, we're saving the land, to, we're saving the land. So again, I like that a lot, honestly. But we'll see as we continue that RPGs will pretty much always be our best stories, so that's unsurprising. But anyway, it is finally time to get into the main part of this game. Right away, something I wanted to bring up was that in the Japanese version, the player character only looks in one direction, which I thought was a little strange. As some of you may know, this game didn't come to the West until 3 years after it was released in Japan, and when it came over as Dragon Warrior. It's pretty much the same game, but in the Western release, they actually updated the player character's sprite to look in 4 directions and made the shoreline a little clearer, so one point to the Western release actually having better sprite work. One thing that I had to get used to was the command window. In most RPGs, you just walk into stairs to go up or down. You walk into the door to go through it, but here you have to stop on top of the stairs and then push the command window, stairs command, and then go up those motherfuckers. It didn't bother me after a while because I got so used to it, but it was a little weird at first. There are towns to visit, shops, and inns, so it's already looking like the standard RPG of today. You can buy new weapons and items and talk to the NPCs who actually have good information to say. Sometimes. They even have them saying words like thou and thee, which is pretty cute. You also have secrets in this game that are quite abundant, but the NPCs actually keep them from feeling too cryptic at least. Immediately when you leave the castle town, you can see your final destination over the horizon. I do love that so much. The fact that you can see where you're gonna end your journey, right where you started it, that's pretty clever, and I wish was used a little more often. But when you leave the safety of towns, all that's left out on the fields are the monsters running amok. When I played this game, I bought a club, I walked out there and encountered this horrifying spawn of evil. I beat it and got 1 experience point. I immediately became concerned. Uh-oh, Zoin thoughtest to himselfist. This game might have something I like to call bad RPG pacing. A quick explanation on what that is. Good pacing in an RPG is pretty tough. It's the main reason why RPGs aren't really for everyone. A good paced RPG juggles story with gameplay perfectly. Too much to one side and the other starts to feel less utilized. But there is also the problem of difficulty progression. In a good RPG, you don't want the player battling the same enemies over and over because you made the difficulty progression too jumpy. You want it to feel seamlessly to each chapter. Some modern RPGs actually keep the player from over-leveling just so the challenge isn't too easy. And unfortunately, it's dragonquest's biggest problem. I level grinded on enemies for about 3 hours to level 8. And then I continued on, doing some questy things like visiting new towns, talking to old wise men, and exploring caves for about 1 hour and 40 minutes. Suddenly, I met with a vulture serpent thing called a wyvern, which looks nothing like what wyverns are supposed to, and it clapped my shit. And suddenly, I realized, uh-oh, I'm underleveled again. I'm not doing that much damage, that's for sure. Not as much. Oh my goodness, dude! Within about 1 hour and 40 minutes of actual just playing the game, once again, I needed to grind. And the enemies don't give you much experience points, nor do they give you much gold. So you have to grind for a while, even to buy better equipment and weapons. It's very disappointing because they do have caves you can explore that have gold in them. The chests that they put there to help you explore give you only about 6 to 17 gold most of the time. And there's only 2 chests in the game that give you pretty decent gold, which is the ones inside the castle at the beginning, and the one all the way at the end, at the final area, that finally gives you 500 to 700 gold. It's crazy. So even though I level grinded for 3 hours to level 8, I once again had to grind because the next obstacle was a boss fight. My first boss fight that you need to be around level 11 to be okay with. And you need to have pretty decent gear by then too, so you need quite a bit of gold. Which, side note, apparently I got pretty lucky when I fought the boss because I put him to sleep like the whole fight, and apparently someone told me that's very lucky, so kudos for that. But yeah, that was unfortunately pretty much the pattern of this game from start to finish. Grind for like 2 hours and then some questy things for about 1.5 hours, which did definitely get old very quickly, unfortunately. The battles themselves are pretty simple, where you don't really see any actual movement really. You just have to read the text and see what's going on. You do get spells, quite a few honestly. Heal, hurt, sleep. You use this one a lot. Radiant, stop spell, outside, return, repel, heal more, and finally hurt more. I like the spells, and they honestly kept the fighting pretty interesting. Though hurt and hurt more? Come on, can't you call those fire or fire 2 at least? The spells are pretty self-explanatory, though Hurt and Hurt More are only damaging spells and they didn't really do much to me. I've been told that the Hurt spells actually damage an enemy who has very high defense stats, but it's an almost unnoticeable difference than just hitting them normally. I would have liked if some enemies took more damage through magic spells than physical attacks, just to not make it feel as useless, you know? The other spells do get used quite a lot. In fact, Stop Spell is a spell to keep enemies from using their magic on you, and I used it a lot, honestly. Most RPGs I never really use silent spells, so that's pretty cool. I hope I'm not coming off as if this game is bad. This is truly just my first reactions to things. There are things I truly like in this game. The inventory never bothered me, which if you played other RPGs, especially old RPGs, the inventories can get full quickly, and you'll have to constantly make space. Buying items wasn't so bad either, but you can only buy one thing at a time, which can get time consuming. Just give 6 herbs to me at once, Humphrey! Though even that's not so bad because you can't even carry more than 7 items anyway, and if you set the text speed to fast, it's really not that time consuming. It's just a little bit of a bother. And what can I say, I do love the art style. I don't know why, but Toriyama's strange art style really works for this. Seeing new enemies was always exciting for me. You can clearly see Toriyama in some of these designs too. I do love the lore behind everything as well. I like how you have to earn that you're a true Erdrick descendant, not just by flashing your driver's license, but by proving you're worthy by collecting your ancestors' old gear and finding the Erdrick token. This game can run for a long time, by the way. So how are the tunes this time? Do they get old? The music in this game isn't bad. I personally don't think it will get a spot on my playlist, but it fits the tone of each area pretty well, for the most part. The overworld music sounds deceptively peaceful, but also weirdly slightly somber sounding if you listen to the slow melody closely. And actually, now that I think about it, the castle theme might earn a place on my playlist. I did hum to this track every time I walked around here. The battle music is okay, but not as energetic as I would like a battle theme song to feel. But since you don't see much movements in these battles, it still works well enough. And then there's the cave music. I think it fits pretty well, and in the final area, Castle Charlock, they simply slowed the theme down to make it sound more and more threatening the farther you go. It honestly works very well. This game has the most tracks we've seen so far, so I can appreciate that greatly. Overall, the music works well enough for me, but not quite on that level of Zelda. And since the battle music is pretty much the music you hear throughout most of the game, and it's so lackluster, that does kind of hurt it quite a bit. You know, just for me personally. But that's just my opinion. Someone in my stream said that they love the final boss music, so to each their own. Which does remind me, there isn't really boss music. So sometimes when I run into a boss, it just happens, and I have to get told it's a boss, and not just some random enemy. So I do wish boss fights used a different track, to at least let the player know like, oh okay, this is a boss now. It's even more confusing because bosses will then become normal enemies out in the field. So adding a dedicated boss theme would have helped the bosses feel more like a grandeur kind of experience for me personally. But that's enough about the music. It's time to go ahead and settle this. You may have noticed that sometimes the shot of Solo, that's the hero's name I gave him, looks really small, and that's because dungeons in this game are mostly pitch black, which is where a torch and the spell Radiant comes in, so you can see what you're doing. I can't lie, this is okay in some areas, but almost every dungeon and cave are like this, and it's just more confusing than challenging. trying to remember where you've been and where you haven't been. Stuff like that will inevitably just make the game longer, which kind of feels more like padding than anything else, which isn't a good thing in my book. And don't even try to be like, oh, so you want caves to have lights in them then? That makes sense. Look what I'm fighting! Does realism really matter right now? Like, Zelda can be a little convoluted, but this is pretty f***ed up. Like, do they all have to be dark like this? Like, can't it just be like 1 or 2 dungeons are like this? And again, some people might try to say, well, in the Zelda video, I didn't mind the really giant dungeons in that game, which could also be seen as just padding. But the problem is, imagine doing those dungeons with limited resources that you also have to use to keep the lights on so you can see what you're doing. Like, if you run out of torches and you run out of magic, which there's no ethers in this game, they didn't create that yet. Whatever your magic is at that point, that's all you get. If you run out of magic and torches, you just have to try to find your way out and leave, or you just have to keep on going with this tiny little square barely showing you what you're even doing. So anyway, you go through another dark cave. I stubbed my toe. Save the princess from your first boss, the green dragon. She asks you to take her home, and you can actually say no, which apparently triggers the dragonquest memers' favorite joke. But that's not! Or so I'm told. And I have to say, the fact that you actually pick up her sprite is not only cute, but a nice touch. Solo is one tough mother, cause he carries her all the way home, not dropping her once. Like, damn, Solo? I haven't mentioned it yet, but there's a command called search as well, which is not used on chests. You use the command take for those. No, you search the ground for hidden items. Again, it would be cryptic if you didn't talk to the NPCs, but what they say is actually fairly important, even if it doesn't seem like it. You then travel to the destroyed village of Hawksness, which is completely overrun by monsters now. Like I said at the beginning, it's important stuff you're doing here. You fight an Axe Knight who is guarding a spot to get the Erdrick armor, which is really freaking good. Like, it heals you by 1 every step you take. That is really good. Hard boss, but worth it. Next, there is a red golem boss who is keeping an entire town hostage that you have to use a flute you find to put it to sleep so you can beat on it while it's unconscious. You then go out to a swampy area, which I didn't mention yet, but swampy areas hurt you. But the Erdrick armor negates that too! It's such good armor! Talk to the princess to get the exact coordinates to find the Erdrick's token. It's like the family proof that you are truly a descendant. You get the coordinate for the token, hence why you use the princess to tell you her coordinates so you can find it. Makes more sense if you watch it. You take the gear you have and the token to prove that you're a descendant. Recreate the rainbow bridge to get to the continent the Dragon Lord is on. No, not that rainbow bridge. Keep up! You storm Castle Charlock. You get the Erdrick sword. The sword said to be left by your ancestors. I do like how the sword is still in Castle Charlock. That makes sense. You run back out of Castle Charlock, grind some more for the last time because you'll need to be at least level 20 to fight the final boss. You run back in the castle, run away from everything in there with a f***ing heartbeat because this game didn't create ethers, so you have no way to increase your magical points. The castle is almost bully levels of confusing, but again, if you talk to the NPCs, you know there's a secret entrance to the Dragon Lord. You sprint there as fast as you can, stiff-arming everything trying to stop you, and like 8 floors down, hold on. I'm coming. And like 8 floors down, you come face to face with the evil harbinger of death and destruction himself, the Dragon Lord. One thing I do like is he actually asks you if you would like to join him. That's very Dragon Ball-esque. I did test it out, and if you say yes, he'll just put you in an eternal slumber, so you just kind of die or something anyway. But I gotta say, I do like that option. But sorry, Dragon Lord, I'm here for peace and justice, so it's time for you to go. Let's fight. Oh my god. The Dragon Lord, no, that's not a Ditto transformation, is quite a tough fight. He is a master of magics and will use all of his magical spells to defeat you. This will take all of your power as a knight, nay, all of your courage and skill as a warrior, to even slightly best this demon. Oh. Did I overtrain for this? But oops, mother You thought it was over. The Dragon Lord gets back up and his true form is vicious. It'll probably be a back and forth of getting hit him, then heal more quickly. It's a war of attrition, but with courage and your ancestors at your side, you vanquish the Dragon Lord. But the game doesn't even end there. You walk back outside with the sun hitting your face, a little brighter than usual. You walk around and notice it's quiet. No encounters, no enemies, no monsters, just the fields and mountains, and the faint, audible noise of birds chirping. I love that so much. In fact, I wish more games did that. You don't need a cutscene to show all the creatures dying. You just know they're all gone. You walk back to the castle with very grateful people, and what I'd have to call our first real cutscene plays. The king asks if you'd like his position. The hero silently says no. Wait, you can talk? That's right, he's not a mute like Link, he speaks. Weirdly enough, that was one of the most shocking things all game for me. Solo thought carefully before answering. Only if I can pipe the princess. I cannot, said so, never mind. He declines, saying he wishes to find his own land to rule and call his own. The princess, still excited after him carrying her all the way home, never putting her down once, asks to go with him and be at his side as queen. The hero agrees, picks her up again for another 200 miles, and the journey ends happily ever after. So yeah, my final thoughts. Now coming out of this review, you might be wondering, is this your first bad experience with a game, Zoin? Did you like it? The answer is, I did. I did enjoy my experience, and I'm actually now excited to see how this series progresses. This was one of the first RPGs of its kind, and a lot of things it does were blueprints for other RPGs. That is an achievement to be sure. But I will say I probably enjoyed myself more because I was streaming. Sometimes I have to think about the fact that if I was playing this alone, would I still have fun? And the answer is not really. There is way too much low grinding too often. And if I was playing alone, I honestly may have gotten bored quickly and moved on to something else. So I do have to be honest and keep that as a factor. However, there is so much I enjoy about this game, I honestly would still have to recommend it. Now let me explain. If you've never played an RPG, this one is definitely not for you. I would not recommend this to be someone's first RPGs to get into the genre. But if you're like me, and you've already become accustomed to RPGs, and you want to get into Dragon Quest, you might as well start here. But again, as another first, I wouldn't say to start where I started. No. The Nintendo Switch has released the first 3 Dragon Quest games with the updated graphics and more streamlined decisions. I would say to start with those. I played a little bit of the first one and it does fix my issues with the game right off the bat when it comes to pacing. You get way more gold from fights, way more experience, less level grinding, treasure chests hold way more gold in them, which means way more incentive and rewards to find them. Even the updated music sounds a little bit better in my opinion, that I actually prefer the remake version, which I usually don't ever prefer the remake, I usually prefer the original compositions. So if you want to get into Dragon Quest and you want to start where it all began, check out those versions. Most of my grievances really truly just came from the level grinding. I do still have a problem with the overly used dark caves, but as long as the level grinding is fixed, it's a lot more playable. It just takes up 75% of your experience will be level grinding. But again, if you want to check out Dragon Quest and you want to see where it started, buy the Switch releases. They're extremely cheap. I bought the first game for literally $3.45. So go ahead and check those out, and I hope you guys have a great time with them. As for me, I'm glad I added this series to the list, and I can't wait to see how the mythical quests and journeys continue on. And I'm excited to say that I am looking forward to more Dragon Quest in the future. Whew, but yeah, that's the video this time. It was a long one, my longest one yet. There was a lot to talk about though, a lot with the RPG, a lot about my new experience with a game I've never played before. So I hope my points came across understandable, and I really am excited to see where the series goes from here. I'm going to try to keep the outro pretty short because this video is already long. And if you've gotten this far, I thank you so much, very much for coming this far. Thank you so much for giving me your time of day. And I hope I entertained and maybe informed you, maybe got you into Dragon Quest yourself. Maybe you'll check it out. You might check out the latest version, not like me checking out the first release, but either way, that's fine with me. And don't forget, comment down below your reasonings to why the green dragon kidnapped the princess and didn't just eat her. Honestly, I'd like to see what you guys come up with. And the best comment might even be featured in the next video. So, yeah. But as usual, I'm the creator of the Blue Rebels. It's on Amazon for $5.99. Please check it out. There will be a link in the description to buy yourself a copy, because my dream and goal is to make a series out of it someday. And I need a good amount of support to create that series. So please go and check it out. Please share this video. Tell your friends. Tell anyone who loves Dragon Quest that what my first experience was like. Send them my way. I'd really appreciate it. And please consider supporting me on Patreon, because, you know, if you want more videos with quicker upload speeds and even better editing, it would really help me greatly for any sort of compensation, because at the moment I'm gotta work, which means these videos can't come out that fast. So any sort of contribution helps me a lot. And usually I do some sort of memories of this game of myself, like what memories I have, but you know, as you know, I never played any Dragon Quest game before, so I don't have any memories of this game that didn't just happen like a week ago, so you know. But I'd still like to hear your memories of this game down in the comment section below, so please tell me your experience with Dragon Quest 1. What did you think about it? When did you play it as a kid? Did you play it for 2 hours and drop it and go to something else? That's probably what I would do, honestly. If I did have memories of playing this game as a kid, I would have played it for about 2 hours, dropped it, and went to play Super Mario Bros. 2 or something. But anyway, thank you guys again for watching. I love you all so much. You look great. Stay safe out there. And the next game we have on the list is Super Mario Bros. 2 Lost Levels, not the American release. The Japanese release came out after this game, so this one's gonna be another rage-inducing one. Oh well, it's gonna happen. These NES games are hard. But anyway, thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Goodbye!